Hello and welcome everyone, it's Karen. I'm glad you've stopped by today. I have a video that, well, hang in there because at the end I have switched up this card a little bit. Something about it was bothering me. I had this idea of having these little gnomes hidden in the flowers and popping out. It's a Valentine's card or, just for somebody that you love. But I did switch this out at the end after I had done the editing and I was just going to do this voiceover and it came to me in my sleep and I thought I don't like that. So I hope you'll hang in there with me to the very end. What I'm doing here is I've got these two little gnomes from Paper Rose Studio. They're from the Hey Gnome embossed die cuts collection. And I have cut a strip of acetate. I think that acetate was about 2.5 inches wide. It was just wide enough to put the two gnomes on. So that's what I'm doing here. I am attaching them with the red line tape. And if you notice, I'm only putting that red line tape at the very bottom of the gnomes. And there is a reason for that, which you'll see in a minute here. So it's just one strip at the bottom there, and I'm pressing them onto the acetate. Now, I left the acetate quite long so I could figure out where to cut it off. I've got on my card front there, I've embossed it. It was a scrap piece of cardstock and I'm actually using the debossed side. And here I'm just putting a little tiny little cut where I want to trim it down, and then I'll put that in my trimmer and just trim it off there. And so that should be long enough to fit through. Now I'm rounding the corners of this with the corner chomper. And I'm trying to decide here, do I want these guys to go on the middle of the card or offset? And just because I had this big flower, it made more sense to put these guys off to the side. But you might choose to use other images or die cut images, something that you've stamped. So it may be one gnome. So sort of see what you've got and what other elements you have on the page, and then decide where you want to put it, because really this could go anywhere. It could go sideways as well. Now here I've got a scrap piece of that same embossed cardstock, and I cut it wide enough to just barely cover these gnomes. So depending on what image you're using, you just want to cover as much of it as you can. But here I'm now marking where the acetate goes. I'm just going maybe 1/2 inch down from the top. And I'm going to use my craft knife to cut a slit along between those two lines. It just needs to be wide enough for the acetate to fit through, so that was why I was measuring from one point of the acetate to the other. So just cutting that with my craft knife. And then it should be wide enough now for this little piece of acetate to just slide through, so it will come out the back. And now you'll see why I just put the tape on the bottom part of those gnomes, because now they can go all the way up and above and they will not come out because that tape is there and it's preventing them from coming off or right out. So on my scrap piece of cardstock, now I'm just marking where that acetate goes, because you want to build up to the left of your acetate and around the bottom and the right hand, just the very edge on the right hand. You don't want any foam tape where that acetate has to move. So you do want to build the rest of it up though, so that you've got a pocket for them. And I used 2 layers of acetate on that extra foam cardstock. Okay, so here you can see where the acetate's coming out at the back, and I'm going to glue all around that. I'm not going to glue on the acetate, but up there in that left corner I can put a little line of glue and then all the way around the rest of it, and just leave out where the acetate goes up at the very top there. And I did put quite a bit of glue because I felt this would get a fair bit of pull on it with people pulling those gnomes up and down. So I went quite heavily with the glue, very heavily. So you can see there I've got it just to the left of that acetate, but the acetate itself is not stuck down anywhere. And then that will go on my card base. And then once you've done that, you want to make sure that you can still move the gnomes, that the glue hasn't spread anywhere. So you can see they'll move freely up and down. And now I'm just trying to arrange or figure out how to do all these little elements to cover up the gnomes, and you don't want anything interfering with where the gnomes go up and down, so the leaves can't point down or anything like that. So I'm just organizing this. Now you will see in a little bit here that I got all the way through this. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm not usually this indecisive, but I got this card done and I showed it to my husband and asked his opinion, and I kind of regretted that. He was very honest. But it's like those gnomes are just sticking out of left field. It's like they weren't part of it. My idea initially was that they would just sort of pop in and out, and it was going to look like they were coming out from behind the flowers. But in the end, I did all this, and then I went back, and you'll see because I've put it in. I took the acetate out. I didn't like the acetate, and I usually do like acetate, but for this card, I didn't like it, and I wanted to have some more flowers in behind these gnomes. So I've left this all in because really any other card you could do it with this acetate and it works really well. So this way you get a little bit of both. You're going to see it both ways. But here I am just using glue dots to tuck these flowers in. I'm making sure they're attached to that U sentiment or the leaves and not the gnome behind it. And just covering up where the gnomes are so they come out as a bit of a surprise. So there you have it. Now I did go and put some pearls in the center of those flowers afterwards, and then the gnomes will pop out. And you could leave it like that. I don't know. Leave me a note in the comments if you prefer it with the acetate or the way I've done it in the end, because I was so undecided about this. But here I've cut another piece of that scrap embossed cardstock. I've put some red line tape on it, and I'm just covering up the tab at the top, and I've handwritten in the word pull, and then I just corner rounded that. And so there you can see how it initially ended up with the little gnomes just popping out from behind that sentiment. But somehow that acetate was really bothering me, and I don't know if I've done the right thing or not. I think it's better. I'm going with it, it's better. The second one, you'll see in a second or two here how I've changed that. So there it is, that's the acetate. And now here is what I did do. I took the acetate out, I cut the gnomes off, and I've attached them to this piece of cardstock, which I have embossed as well. It doesn't show up quite so well in the picture, but I did emboss it, and I threaded it back through. I just hand wrote the word pull at the top, and I attached the gnomes to the bottom. And I did put those extra flowers on, and somehow I like the white cardstock better than the acetate on this one. So let me know what you think, but I hope that's given you some ideas. And thanks for joining me, everyone. Have a great day.